My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. All right, crossing path, group stalking, 33833Z1. That's a Toyota Tacoma, pacing with 9KHY210, pacing with 9JON480 with engineered light across the curb. Okay, another white woman stalking a black woman. That's the reality of what's going on. Okay, racism is an illusion presented to you. It's a demonic spirit that people are oppressed by, wanting to destroy and divide other people. But it's an illusion. Okay, you are actually a spirit. You're just enveloped within a particular vessel that happens to be whatever flavor that the Lord created you in, and it's a beautiful thing. Racism is an illusion regarding a basis to distract you from the things that matter in life, because white people are out here stalking black people. That's what I'm documenting with regard to the pattern of conduct. This is group stalking in Ontario, California, where the fake sun is captured after 5 p.m., which is literally impossible. While the LAPD are going to want to argue that they are not demons, that they were not engaged in group stalking under a light source, speaking to the phenomenon, which is a matter of documentation for which they have no constitutional protections and no lawful authority whatsoever to engage in what is already established by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt regarding criminal stalking of a terrorizing nature, doing so in helicopters while the fake sun was rising and setting at an apartment complex, which is a scientific impossibility. And it's also a scientific impossibility that it's also going to be at Alvarado Gardens, and also where I'm documenting it in alignment with the apartment in Ontario, which I documented before I relocated to LA, which was what was so providential regarding the stalking that the entity did in Los Angeles. License plate 8HOP613, license 9KJM366. These are the people that stayed group stalking while the entities engaging in terrorism by helicopter. 8UNE189. This third party 6A42707. These are the people that stay. You're going to reference the documentation from 2019, from 2020. Where I am before this entity. The same demons that are stalking in helicopters are the same ones that stole my personal property, and when they did that, they stole everything that I owned, things that are irreplaceable, by the way. Okay, including things like my law degree, things that you can't go back and purchase, things that are irreplaceable. All right, things that surpass a numerical value, which is relevant to, again, this criminal system that the entity was engaging in when it did so, and also what I was in the middle of while the entity stole my property. It was a criminal act of obstruction while I was in the middle of a prosecution of the state, which again, Thomas Garza, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, engaged in evading service of process. So the entity, again, an act of retaliation where you're stalking me. So you know, with regard to who I am and the vehicle that I was living in on this street, where the entity is flying over daily in the morning in helicopters, which I documented, where the sun is present, and you'll see that. And the entity is group stalking under a fake sun that's present right now at 5:57 p.m. where this demon with this license plate is group stalking in the path. License plate. Driving in the driveway and then reversing out is a demon pacing under the fake sun. License 8ZWH088. Appears to be a Latino male with facial hair, acting with impunity, so he's going to get that criminal record. License as a terrorist, not just an ordinary criminal if he's already got one. License 5PWZ767. License plate 7LCA427. License plate 9NJB782. And this same exact neighborhood is where I documented the fake sun remaining all day, morning until evening. License plate 8CRM839. License 6BFE316. These are the people of the state that are crossing path right now. As you hear, I'm documenting both crossing path, and I'm also documenting the people of the state that live in relevant position, engaged in 24-hour surveillance, living in relevant position where I've already been here before. So this is not based on my just visiting. because I just happen to be in Ontario right now. I was remaining here, and the entity was engaged in criminal facilitation in the same way that is intolerable as documented in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens. It is the basis of federal prison. That's what this neighborhood represents. That's what they already engaged in other words. They've already engaged in that. So you're talking about already being bound by to federal prison based on evidence that's already on the record. I'm here on another day in the face of all that evidence, which is the very foolish criminal activity by a state that cannot avoid their prosecution. License 7GDD777 9FYK536 8YSH692. This is a motorcycle 16N2361. And you will see video captured today, September 15, 2024, where the entity is going from rising and setting a light source, which you see the sunset, to in alignment with my hotel window in Hesperia, California. That's the latest venue that I came from as of September 14, 2024. And you have seen the sun rise 6 in the morning, the sun set 6 in the evening. Number one, there is no sun that's going to be in any position, in alignment, aiming any sunlight at all. You're not going to see the light source, none of that. It's clearly on its face. The P.O.C, as I've described it to you, you're recognizing the demonic environment. Second of all, the entity has kept the fake sun in this position as I've already been in this neighborhood, and in my car where the entity was stalking a homeless person. Okay, they're engaged in stalking black people. They're engaged in stalking homeless people. It has nothing to do with your race. It has nothing to do with your socioeconomic status. All right, these are demons who know who you are based on the spirit that is inside of you. Okay, that's also how you know that this is a demonic motivated. This is motivated by the demonic, but it's also criminal because the state is engaged in stalking and years of stalking in helicopters. And this is also shown to be demonic because the fake sun is in the same neighborhood on the same street. It was over my car from morning until evening. And it's also in a position where it's never going to be anywhere in Alvarado Gardens. And so you're surrounded with evidence, which is absolutely irreconcilable. And so while I'm inside of the apartment, you're looking at engineer light, which on its face, not even analyzing it common sense with regard to being in Hesperia through that hotel window that's facing the Motel 6 in the evening at this time. But just while it's here, the light that's on the inside of the apartment, upright on the wall, you're seeing it pierce through at some sort of peculiar, very specific angle. That's called place light. It has nothing to do with the light source. It is the demonic. Like I've told you, you're looking right at the demonic on a daily basis. JPOWERS 5ADH957, handicap 8934U, 4UXU258, 5WUB715. Engaging with a surveillance, just like the demon you see on video, the white male with no shirt. He's engaged in heavily stalking me, wanting to appear to be focused on somebody else in a conversation, which, by the way, is audible activity. But also, you'll pay attention to how he's not talking anymore, and he's entirely focused on me, which this is the reality the whole time. Okay, I'm not addressing him. He's all in my mouth regarding what I'm stating, and remaining loitering in the parking lot, waiting until I cross the street to engage in heavy-duty stalking. License 9HLR420 is group stalking in the parking lot as well. But this is what you'll see on video under the light source in engineered light. So you're looking at all manner of stalking on its face and stalking in substance, which again, group stalking is a matter of recognizing an environment, and group stalking is not group stalking is traditional stalking in that it is defined the same way. You're following from place to place. You're remaining where someone is, which is stalking and surveillance. The entity is doing it as a population. And that is occurring while an environment that is not natural, an environment that is engineered, which everyone is learning what that looks like. And that environment is perpetually present. And that's how you have a multiplicity of faces. In other words, a population stalking you 24/7 everywhere that you're going. And the hallmark is that the entity does so while the government itself engages in that stalking in helicopters. And this is how I've captured that, going from state to state, county to county, city to city. Okay, this is what Los Angeles has in common with Ontario, California. Okay, this is what Monrovia has in common with being in Fontana, California. Okay, this is what San Bernardino has in common with Riverside, California. These are all counties. This is what I documented in Las Vegas, Nevada also, and that's how you know that it's not the ordinary conduct with regard to the freedom to just use their helicopters and giving helicopter rides, whatever the entity wants to say that's going on. The fake sun was over my head in Las Vegas while they were using helicopters. It was the P.O.C. And that's exactly what it is. And there's no sun that's setting here while I'm on the roads and highways in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm also showing you helicopter activity. And there's a sun in alignment with my vehicle in Nevada at the same time. That's not the sun. And also the sun's not going to be at the same address, which is Woodside Senior Apartments, when I'm here in the morning. That's evidence already sitting on the record. And then hence you have the idiots that are stalking under a fake sun, including JZ706 handicap and a Yaris group stalking on surveillance cameras at Woodside Senior Apartments. The entire property has been engaged in years of surveillance with the Ontario Police Department. License 9HNW373-325LMH, that's Oregon, 9BUP491, 8GEN638, DJ87B31, that's paper, 7PWU252. 8PSB005, 9LOF371, 8MUB992, UCRISLA 7X82385, through which the back sun, let me go ahead and get that so you can see what I'm looking at. The light source is in alignment with me through the back windshield of this demon's vehicle in spot number 32 at Woodside Senior Apartments at 6:06 p.m. That's a specific environment, and it's entirely impossible. It's highly demonic. They're all group stalking at this property. All right, capturing that still image, and you're mindful of all the cities that I've gone to. You're mindful of the fact that I remained at Alvarado Gardens from morning until evening. I was living and working there, and I documented every morning the sunrise, the sunset, the entity engaging what is the demonic, because it's not the natural weather. Everyone's aware of that. So the entity engaged in group stalking while covering up the fake sun, still stalking in the path with methods of light, maintaining light activity around the perimeter around me while group stalking and trying to cover up a fake sun, which is not changing the pattern of conduct. That's malice by a demon-possessed entity that is aware and monitoring evidence, 9EXJ932. All right, and you have what is the fake sun that's through a windshield in Ontario, California, in a parking lot of Woodside Senior Apartments, where, by the way, the 55 plus are fully engaged in sexual violence. They're closeted psychopaths, many of them living on low income housing, and they're engaging in criminal activity with the government. 7CQD844, they engaged in criminal summoning. They've engaged in kidnapping with the entity at this property as well. This is already sitting on the record. Hi, how's it going?
Hi.
Good. It is currently 6:08 p.m. That's the third party whose license I documented in the Yaris. All right, this demon is pacing in the parking lot, then walking by with communication device, parking in the parking lot, sitting in the parking lot, engaging in conversation, just like you saw as I walked out of the apartment. The Caucasian male stalking a black woman with the police, and the entity is doing so while the fake sun, engineer light, is inside of the apartment. And you're also aware this is all engineered light, not sunlight, that's covering the property. Why? Because you've seen the character of this light. Second of all, because the fake sun, that which is supposed to be the sun, it's over Alvarado Gardens. So what is outside of this apartment of Woodside Senior Apartments? It's not the sun, nor is that sunlight, meaning this is not the natural environment. It is engineered for the criminal pattern of conduct, which is demonic. All right, that's how you know that the entire property is surrounded with this for purposes of that criminal system with corrupt police departments such as Ontario Police. Everything okay? Bye. So anyway, it's currently 6:09 p.m. That's evidence of what is pacing. The entity is group stalking, license 9DTY580. And in case I didn't say it, 17671M3. 8GIX018-47657M2. 8VKZ769. 6YGM131. 9CKS542. 9GKH740. 6GBB673. And the property of Woodside, the property management company, meaning those that work here, those that live here, are engaged in years, not just today. This is an ongoing continuation of what's already been documented. The Ontario International Airport is group stalking commercial airline planes in the specific environment, engaging in the demonic behavioral pattern while I'm documenting Title 18 criminal activity that is creating this audible activity as though they're taking off over the apartment complex. They're not taking off from the Ontario International Airport. They're not landing at the Ontario International Airport, creating audible activity over the Woodside Senior Apartments. And you also know that because the fake sun is here, the engineered light is here. So that's the unintelligent group stalking conduct by the idiots that are stalking under a fake sun. And it is the Ontario International Airport. And the demons that are in a government and leadership position regarding the Ontario International Airport, which you will witness, you will observe it through the documentation of the Ontario International Airport, who's going to be subject to civil and criminal prosecution for domestic terrorism, for being a sex offender. All right, and remember, the perpetual sex offense is what the Ontario International Airport is going to be prosecuted for, like every other airport, like every other terrorist organization, and including the sheriff's departments, the police departments, who are engaging in the pattern of conduct together. The entity is doing so, doing so while you have demons who are, you'll see with regard to Paul Leon. This is a demon that is currently the mayor of Ontario, and has been engaged in this criminal pattern of conduct for years. You'll see the commonality regarding the demon who is over, I believe this demon's name is Warden, and he is on the Ontario City Council as well. You don't have an ongoing coincidence regarding the pattern of conduct. And so I just wanted to point this out, and I will specifically document the Ontario International Airport and the demons, the corrupt leadership, the corrupt and dangerous leadership that permits terrorism utilizing commercial airline planes. And not only is Amazon Prime, UPS, FedEx, as I've already documented, Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, very heavily documented, Alaska Airlines, Frontier Airlines, all of these airlines that I've been documenting over the years, the entity is engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct. The presence of an airport is not the exception regarding showing the pattern of conduct. The entity is not, first of all, you're not taking off perpetually everywhere that I'm at. This is what the entity is doing. And you are already aware of the demonic features, amplified audible activity. The entity is always engaging in a pattern of conduct of stalking with regard to wherever I'm at in the city. Because they have an airport in the city, the entity, again, these are the idiots stalking under a fake sun. And because there's an airport in the city, the entity thought to itself, its logic, and these are the same idiots stalking under fake sun. Their logic is, oh, there's an airport in the city, so that's why the target individual, in other words, is going to be depicted as some sort of paranoid schizophrenic because there's an airport. So of course there's going to be planes everywhere you go, taking off everywhere in the city. While you're looking at also what's coexisting with that is the fake sun is everywhere that you're at, everywhere that you go, all times of the day, and that's what you're going to see in the documentation. The Ontario International Airport are including demons who are engaged in stalking in commercial airline planes, and it is as demonic and psychotic and unheard of, unfathomable as stalking in helicopters, which is what the terrorist organizations such as the Ontario Police Department and the Los Angeles Police Department are documented terrorists doing perpetually, day and night. All right. So the entity is engaging in, and what you'll see the video today, you'll see, and the images today, you'll see the fake sun over the property. And last night you saw the fake moon over the property. That's what you're looking at with regard to the Alvarado Gardens, which again provided context for prolonged evidence of my remaining at one address. And so did the sun. We only have one. All right. So at no point today could it ever be over Miami-Dade, contrary to what you looked at. You saw light source over Tyreek Hill that on September 8, 2024 at 10:20 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, where the Miami-Dade Police Department is engaging in an arrest, and the legality or illegality of that arrest and the details of that encounter, which is a matter of evidence. It's on body cam. You're also looking at the light source, which is documented remaining over me in Southern California at any of the aforesaid properties, anywhere in Southern California. It is impossible to be the natural environment anywhere in Florida because the entity is keeping the light source where we only have one sun. It remains over me where it's rising. That's where it's setting as I remain there. At that same property, for example. This is what I documented at Monrovia Courtyard by Marriott. This is what I documented while I am at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. This is what I documented even in here in Ontario, being in my car, being in Ontario this is the same block where the sunrise is documented at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts. Understand it's just up the street. So for the entity to have the light source in alignment with this apartment at Woodside Senior Apartments is equally impossible. It's non-movement of the sun. It's also the same street where I'm documenting the sunrise through the windows of the vehicle that I was sleeping on G Street in Fern. Okay, 7 o'clock in the morning, the fake sun is in alignment with me and the window on G Street. Woodside Senior Apartments is on G Street. This is the same street, the same apartment complex, the light activity. That's never the sun under any circumstances, nor is it while I'm inside of the hotel room of Holiday Inn in Hesperia. Neither is it while I'm inside of the hotel room in San Diego, California. And so when you're paying attention to what I documented today, capturing the fake sun over this property at Woodside Senior Apartments, which is already criminal conduct on the record while the entity has engaged in kidnapping. And this is through the West Valley District Attorney's Office, the West Valley District regarding the DA and the Public Defender's Office, the San Bernardino County Court, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, exercising fictitious authority, kidnapping. The Ontario Police Department, a terrorist organization, kidnapping. The San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, kidnapping in concert with through the criminal conduct that Tracy Banks has documented engaging in. And so what I said, when I'm capturing her in the path and engaging in light activity, audible activity creation, while the entity flies over my head in a helicopter, both in Rancho Cucamonga and in Ontario, California, in that same specific environment where there's also a pre-existing history regarding repeated kidnappings, and she's fully engaged in communicating threats, which is also serving to monitor me, but she's communicating threats while she's in conversation with attorneys that I don't even have a communication with, because they were intentionally engaged in violating their duties to a client whom they're representing, and they're engaging in what is communicating with somebody that I gave them no consent to, that is Tracy Banks. She has no power of attorney. She has no right whatsoever to communicate on my behalf, or nor does anybody that's purportedly representing me in a criminal case where there is no jurisdiction to do so. Nonetheless, they are not even abiding by the rules that they are governed by while they're exercising fictitious authority as an attorney, as a DA, as a PD, as a courthouse, as a police department, as a sheriff's department. The entity is engaged in an ongoing literally departing from the rules and the policies that govern the offices that they hold as an attorney, as a judge, as a courthouse, as a police, and as a sheriff's department. This is relevant because much of this that you will see in the documentation of 2020 and 2021, I'm documenting the audible activity that's happening inside of this apartment while the fake sun is over this apartment. And what you hear Tracy Banks talking about how I better go to court or I'm going to be arrested, understand who's talking. First of all, that's the state. It's a third party who's monitoring. And the audible activity is not only threatening my life because it's group stalking, but it's also a threat in substance and on its face, because the audible activity is serving to threaten if I don't conform to or submit to the authority that the state doesn't have, that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, exercising fictitious authority by engaging in a fictitious prosecution, because that's what it is. It's fictitious because they don't have authority. It's also fictitious because they made up the charges. They made it up. And then they are threatening they're threatening an arrest based on issuing a warrant. They don't even have authority to issue a warrant. These are the same documented stalkers. They're on video on the record right now engaging in this criminal conduct. They were threatening at that time through a third party who's group stalking with them. Understand the absurdity and the hypocrisy that is encapsulated in this body of evidence. This is the same terrorist organization that is on this day, at this juncture in evidence, entirely delusional about all the ways in which I'm going to prosecute them while they're stalking in helicopters. In engineer light, under a fake sun, with the people of the state. Every single last one that I'm documenting is going to federal prison. If you're 67, if you're 55 and a half, you're going to federal prison. No senior citizen on some senior citizen property. Clearly, they're fully capable and fully engaged in the pattern of conduct. Kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department, criminal summoning with the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, criminal summoning with all of those, both of those departments, and American Medical Response, engaged in harassment as an entity, terrorism as an entity, this deemed in a relevant position in apartment number 55, the same exact demonic pattern of conduct in the specific environment, stalking by being in an apartment in relevant position above me, ongoing amplified audible activity. As though this is another Bigfoot, everything that they're doing, every movement that they're making, and also doing it with simultaneity to my operation of a phone. All right, to everything that I'm doing with regard to documentation and everything that I'm capturing on a phone and in relevant position. They're stalking with activity. That's a demon in apartment number 55. And those are demons that fill the entire apartment complex. So there's a whole history with regard to Woodside Senior Apartments and the foolishness that these felons are engaging in. Okay, they are preparing to be convicted for a series of federal offenses, each of which are a basis of federal prison. And they're doing so with a pre-existing history that is specific to this particular apartment complex, this neighborhood. Okay, much of the foundational evidence that I have, it occurred here. And then the entity engaged in rising and setting a fake sun in Los Angeles. That's how foolish both the Ontario Police, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, the people of the state, and the Los Angeles Police, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Fire Department, all of the state, in other words, and the people of the state. That's how foolish they are. But this is again showing what? This shows the malice, and this shows the how the entity is drunk on power. Certain that they were going to sacrifice me. They were going to kidnap me. They engaged in that plenty of times. This is why I'm repeating. Jason Knighton's going to federal prison. L. Keys is going to federal prison. You have the entity that engaged in ongoing criminal acts, kidnapping, while you're engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. Everything that's occurring in this apartment is public information. Everything. Everything. That's how you have a demon that's with the Ontario Police Department playing back on his cell phone the conversation that's happening inside of this apartment. This is what was documented in 2019 when the entity again engaged in kidnapping. The same courthouse where I'm capturing the fake son at 10:29 in the morning. The entity's keeping the fake son over not only Alvarado Gardens and every other hotel that I've gone to as of late in 2024, but I've documented my location in entirely different regions. I'm at the Fontana Lewis Library. It's not over any of these hotels. It's not over Alvarado Gardens while I'm at the Fontana Lewis Library. And while I was in Los Angeles, I heavily referenced the evidence that's already on the record with regard to a natural environment. That's the ongoing premise, because if that's a natural environment, meaning the sun is over the Fontana Lewis Library in Fontana, California, then it's not possible that the sun is going to be over my head at the Alvarado Gardens apartments like I captured every day. And what's the hallmark? In that specific environment, which is entirely unnatural and scientifically impossible to occur, anything that's natural, is the entity stalking in helicopters. And it is stalking in that environment because that specific environment is there for a purpose, for a reason. That phenomenon is happening for a reason. And that conduct that's happening with regard to following me from place to place in helicopters is directly relevant to that specific environment that's also following me everywhere, which is demonic. And they're demons stalking in helicopters. And that's what, again, Mike Lorenz, this is also a demon. You don't have a department engaging and abiding by a pattern of conduct, and that is a person that's ignorant about that pattern of conduct. Nor will you be in a position of leadership while that pattern of conduct is underway, and you can reasonably maintain that, first of all, you're ignorant and that you're merely derelict. This is something that dereliction of duty is unacceptable, nor will you remain in that position whatsoever. You're fired. In addition, the world needs to know that you are a demon. Satan is using you, and that's why you're in that position, and that's why it's happening on your watch. All right. So that's what you are able to know with regard to all the demons who are currently in position of leadership where this demonic targeting system is underway. And this is showing the mental illness of those that are currently wearing badges and are part of the Ontario Police Department. They are mentally ill, which is why you're stalking somebody in a helicopter. That mental illness is born of demon possession. And it's the same condition that a population maintains. And I happen to know the names of some of those. It includes, again, the documented third party. Her name is Tracy Banks. You see her group stalking on video yesterday, September 14, 2024. I am at her apartment at this very apartment where the moon is over the apartment building last night and the fake sun is over the apartment complex today. And it's still here after 5 p.m. And it's already on record where that same demon-possessed agency, not a law enforcement agency, the Ontario Police, heavily documented terrorists engaged in criminal summoning while they know that I am exposing and documenting their criminal activity, which engagement in any acts of obstruction of justice because you are mad that as a terrorist you're being exposed, which is what I've documented these terrorists with Ontario Police engaging in for years under a fake sun over this apartment in the morning, which is exactly what you're standing in while your shadow's in front of you at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. That's not any sun that's going to be over the same property complex, like I documented today at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, comparing it to the hallway window at the Holiday Inn in Hesperia, California. It's not in the hallway window of Hesperia's Holiday Inn either at 9750 Key Point. But I took screenshots of that so you can see it. But there's an ongoing, long-standing history regarding the idiocy of the demon that crawled in a helicopter to the demise of the entire state of California and the demons in Nevada, because they're engaging in criminal conduct as one, and they are showing that this is what every single last one of them are doing. The same body of evidence, the same pattern of conduct, the same mental illness is exposed, highly unintelligent, but also very delusional. In the face of that evidence, the entity is engaging in what is stalking in an unheard of method that's inherently designed to psychologically harm someone. And because the entity seeks to inflict that type of harm as a population, as a government that wants to sacrifice you, not only would they be subject to federal prison as they are part of any terrorist organization masquerading as sheriff's departments, police departments, fire departments, engaging in kidnapping, such as this is what the EMTs do as well when the entity criminally defames. This is already evidence sitting on the record. So you're already looking at serious time in federal prison, and they're still group stalking to date. Mike Lorenz does not have any future in law enforcement. I'm going to expose this terrorist organization there are over 10 law enforcement agencies. They're terrorist organizations. And that's just off of the top regarding the comprehensive list of terrorist organizations who are exposed engaging in this P.O.C. Inside and outside of California, by the way, as I went to Nevada and the same exact pattern of conduct is underway. So the entity is engaging in this and doing so in the face of that evidence, and it's exposing the malice, and it's exposing the secrets of those criminals, and it's the fact that they are demon possessed. That's how they're able to abide by a specific pattern of conduct, and that's why this specific environment is remaining over me. That's why you have many of them are strangers. There are more strangers than there are those engaging in this pattern of conduct by those who I know. And that's how you know that they're demons as well, because they know who I am. You know that their knowledge is based on the specific environment and their engagement in the elements of monitoring in that specific environment. You're engaging in terrorism via directed light. I'm in a whole other state. That's a scientific impossibility. That's not ever naturally occurring. It's a method of targeting. That's a demon's confession that they know who you are and they're targeting you. That's how you know that it's demonic. Everybody group stalking is demon possessed, and they're in a demonic environment. And the demons know who you are while they're targeting you inside and outside of California, as the evidence shows. This is where the demons are crawling into their blue and white helicopters, stalking, flying over the apartment complex, flying in alignment with the fake sun. That's what you saw the Ontario Police Department doing, not being set afire, in a position that's not going to be seen through my bedroom window in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, as I documented, as I got off of work, walked out of my leasing office, walked upstairs, and the fake sun was in alignment with my bedroom window. That's not a position that's going to create any light activity at all through what the entity was doing every day. Closed blinds at a downward trajectory on the carpet, ricocheting off the mirror backwards onto the carpet, up the bedroom wall where the same window is, and also on the ceiling, creating multiple shadows. Again, that's the engineered light, not sunlight, but nonetheless, that's the entity admitting that they were stalking and targeting me in my bedroom, where that fake sun was outside of my bedroom window. You're seeing Ontario police stalking in the path in the distance, and that's the fake sun in alignment with me. I'm in Ontario, California. That's not in alignment with my bedroom window in Los Angeles. That's how you know what Maria Solis Alvarez is engaged in, and what she is, while she acted as an employer engaged in this pattern of conduct. That's why she and everybody else with speaker companies, SoCal and the corporate office, they're going to federal prison. That's why everybody living at Alvarado Gardens is going to federal prison. They're engaging in the terrorism that Woodside Senior Apartments is engaging in. And let me be clear, everybody living up and down the street, everybody pacing, driving in vehicles, it's not traffic. And you know that because of the specific environment. This is putting everything and everyone in the proper context. These are demons who are targeting in a very specific zone of relevant positioning. And all they're doing is crawling all around, keeping the elements of monitoring ongoing, including a demon that's stalking by being in an apartment. One of the most pathetic postures that a human being can maintain. You are not even living your own life in your own apartment. You are stalking somebody else in your own apartment. That's how Satan robs people of dignity, of worth, of value. Just as a personal note, by the way, that's how worthless that demon-possessed person feels, because they're stalking somebody else in their own apartment. That's a demon-possessed person. Stalking in the path, stalking with noise, stalking with the impossible light activity that I'm documenting on my phone in this apartment. While it's over Alvarado Gardens, there's no sunlight inside of this apartment. While even if that was a sun anywhere remotely near Ontario over this apartment complex, the position of this light activity is entirely demonic. It's impossible. It's shaded outside around the building, but yet you're looking at light manifest on the inside. And the light is at a backwards angle coming through the window. Again, not sunlight coming down from the sky, which would create shade under all circumstances inside of this room. It's entirely demonic. It's showing through the environment that you are being targeted. And then the idiots arrive in a helicopter. These are the unintelligent demons who have no future anymore in law enforcement. And Ontario Police Department has gone well beyond the threshold for disbanding. In addition to the many, and I mean many, who have been documented stalking while being employed by the Ontario Police Department. And I don't care if they have retired, they're going to federal prison. All right, they're going to federal prison. I documented you stalking while you're acting to sacrifice someone, while you're bearing a badge, representing any law enforcement agency, you're going to federal prison. And there are many that are sitting on the record, group stalking. And I was documenting them while I was documenting the LAPD in Los Angeles. I'm documenting them while I go to Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm documenting them while I'm showing you the pattern of conduct, because that's exactly what those demons are doing the moment that I'm documenting them. So you're mindful of that evidence, and I'm going to continue with the trail of evidence to show you this is what that demon was doing. You see this right here? This is the P.O.C. This is what that demon was doing, and that demon's going to federal prison. All right, it is currently September 15th, 2024. And I did want to go back because I referenced a specific demon that's in position over the Ontario International Airport And this demon's name is Alan D. Wapner. He's a council member for the city of Ontario. He's also a corrupt government actor. He's on the Ontario City Council. This is not a coincidence. While you have the Ontario International Airport and literally the City Hall, a crime scene. I'm documenting the light source. I'm documenting the light source over me at the City Council at the City Hall in the morning and the afternoon. The entity is terrorizing me, stalking in helicopters at the Ontario Ovitt Family Community Library. The City Hall is right there at the same business plaza, okay? The demons, part of the Ontario City Hall, are group stalkers. They're part of the same community. They hold government positions, and they're engaged in what is public corruption. And this demon in particular, Alan D. Wapner, is not ignorant about the use of commercial airline planes by psychopaths, climbing in them, having pilot license, which is going to be revoked. This is speaking to the civil prosecution. Every airline at the Ontario International Airport is fully engaged in federal stalking and state surveillance. The Ontario International Airport, a government agency, if you will. It's a state facilitating venue. It's going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally for what it's been engaged in for years. And so is every other airport in California. While I'm in San Diego County, the airports in San Diego are engaged in state surveillance, engaged in targeting as I'm flying over in relevant position on the freeway. While the fake sun, that's the context. You see the light source over me. You'll see the engineer light and the entity stalking in commercial airline planes and helicopters. And the people of the state are also in tow group stalking together. This is massive surveillance. All right, the entity is doing so on an ongoing basis. And again, this is a corrupt government actor who's to be plucked from this position that he currently holds. Again, Alan D. Wapner, who is in a position, a corrupt and dangerous position. This is how you have public corruption. This is how you have psychopaths that have pilot licenses that are going to be revoked. This is how you're creating an exception to being able to obtain a pilot license, being prosecuted as a domestic terrorist, where you will never obtain any licensure to fly anything. No helicopter, no airplane. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is under the tutelage, the dangerous and corrupt leadership of Alan D. Wapner, who is associated with the Ontario International Airport, who's engaged in state surveillance, sexual violence, keeping a woman under surveillance, stalking with audible activity, and in concert with the population that's used, in concert with the entity that's stalking in helicopters. As I'm documenting OPD stalking in helicopter, the moment that I begin doing so, the demons are in a position as though the airplane is taking off, and that's why it's amplified in volume. If the planes are taking off from the Ontario airport, it's not being heard. It's already at a point in elevation where it's not going to be disrupting a senior citizen apartment complex. But this is common sense. And this is also with regard to lawfulness under relevant zoning laws. And this is a senior citizen apartment complex. And you also know that this is true because the fake sun is over this apartment complex. Engineer light, multiple shadows when I'm standing underneath the street lamp. My shadow is upright in front of me. That has nothing to do with I'm looking at the lamp outside and my shadow is in front of me while the light is in front of me. This is engineer light where the entity is stalking in commercial airline planes, and they are coming from the Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police Department's heliport. They're engaged in state surveillance together while engaged in federal stalking. And Alan D. Wapner is engaged in state surveillance and federal stalking as well. And this is a corrupt, demon-possessed, closeted psychopath and sex offender whose corruption is, again, the reason for and the ability for this public corruption to occur, while demons like this corrupt government actors are in the positions that they hold. And that is, again, Alan D. Wapner. No coincidences here. You don't have ignorance amongst the entity that's engaged in this pattern of conduct. So I just want to make sure that I'm documenting that. Ontario International Airport utilizing commercial airline planes to engage in criminal surveillance and federal stalking here over the senior citizen complex. And that evidence is already established because you're looking at the specific environment. In the specific environment is where the entity is stalking in planes and helicopters. And that has been the original basis of the pattern of conduct, the evidence of the pattern of conduct from the very beginning of the evidence that I began capturing. This has been the contention from the outset. This is exactly what the evidence has shown. This is the ongoing consistency of that evidence, no matter what city and county or state that I go to. All right. And that's speaking to what is impossible. It's impossible that is the case, other than the fact that it is indeed exactly what I am contending, because it's not the natural environment that pattern of conduct is occurring in. So that is, again, the unnatural environment is a part of the pattern of conduct. All right. It is currently, by the way, 6:34 p.m. I want to give context. This demon that's stalking inside of apartment number 55, is crossing path, acting with impunity, engaging in sexual violence, engaging in federal stalking, engaging in the criminal purpose to retaliate, intimidate, harass, and terrorize as an entity, while at the same time the Ontario International Airport is utilizing a commercial airline plane and amplifying it while I'm inside of this apartment. Not coincidentally, while I'm naming again the demon who's going to be removed from the position, and is again a documented state actor, Alan P.D. WAPNER. This is a criminal and a terrorist. I want to be clear. I don't have to document you group stalking on video, walking around me or driving by me. You are a group stalker in any way in which you are engaged in any effort to facilitate, enable further state terrorism, which is the conspiracy to murder and kidnap an American citizen. That's exactly what you're doing when you're in a position over an airport that's engaged in public corruption, group stalking an American citizen. That's exactly what you are when you are in a position of government, a council member, and that city hall is engaged in that pattern of conduct in relevant position where the people of the state and the state are group stalking at that venue. That's exactly what the Ontario City Hall is. That's exactly what they're engaged in, federal stalking and state surveillance. And you are a government actor where that population and that government is fully engaged in that pattern of conduct. These are demons that are not ignorant about what they're all engaging in the same exact environment. I'm just providing common sense regarding the evidence that they're all surrounded by. And so with regard to that evidence and having the artillery to back up everything that I'm stating, I'm going to go ahead and connect all those dots for you. All these demons are engaged in a pattern of conduct together, and they're corrupt. Every single last one of these corrupt demons need to be plucked out of the position that they hold. And you are a documented group stalker. In other words, you are not accepted from being federally prosecuted. And I'm going to leave it at that. It is currently 6:36 p.m. The entity engages in terrorism, the demon in apartment 55 and the Ontario International Airport using commercial airline planes, which they're doing 24 hours a day. While I am speaking and referencing Alan D. WAPNER, who is not accepted from being federally prosecuted for state surveillance, that he is engaging, understand the nature of the crime committed by the state. You are a documented criminal actor. Group stalking is a term of art. It's not just based on the demon that's group stalking in the apartment above. You're group stalking as a judge, enabling, facilitating the pattern of conduct by virtue of your criminal activity while you're abusing your position as a judge. You're a group stalker. That's exactly what you are in a position of government, facilitating, enabling, it's flourishing under your leadership. Beware, you are subject to a federal prosecution. While I'm documenting you and I'm subject to the pattern of conduct, you're documenting an entity that's monitoring evidence. You are directly threatening that target individual while they're subject to it, and you are a part of that documentation. Beware, you are not accepted from a federal prosecution. This is a criminal system that's underway by a population. So ongoing corporate knowledge, ongoing corporate presence, and an infinity of an abundance of resources against the little guy, the American citizen. You're going to flip that malice on its head. Beware, you are subject to a federal prosecution. The entity is engaging in terrorism via the Ontario International Airport and the demon group stalking apartment number 51 at the same time, while I'm referencing the state actor, Alan D. WAPNER. This is a demon-possessed, corrupt government actor associated with both the Ontario International Airport that's engaged in state surveillance and federal stalking, and the Ontario City Council, a corrupt government body fully engaged in the pattern of conduct and this public corruption that's underway by the constituents of the state, which they're not ignorant about. They make up the constituents of the state who are also engaged in this P.O.C. It is currently 6:38 p.m. on September 15, 2024, and this is P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. There is the fake moon, and there's OPD repeatedly flying over this apartment, vibrating the apartment. That's called sensational activity creation. All right, and this is where the fake sun was, right here where I'm pointing my finger. That's where the sunset was, where OPD was on video stalking by helicopter again. They're repeatedly flying over this apartment building as I'm stepping out in order to capture it. This is the criminal conduct that Mike LORENZ is accountable for. In the same way that the criminal activity that the Los Angeles Police Department is captured engaging in, Dominic Choi is responsible for. And the same criminal activity that the Monrovia Police Department is engaging in, including helicopter, stalking by helicopter, Alan San Victoris is responsible for. This is occurring in the specific environment. I'm pointing out a pattern amongst the entity that's engaged in group stalking. They are repeatedly flying over my apartment. That's why I'm capturing video right now. And they're doing so as they're monitoring what I'm capturing online. And I want to be clear, I'm capturing, this is relevant for the prosecution of the people of the state online, and it includes YouTube. And so I'm going to show you why they're group stalking me. That's why they're engaging in stalking in helicopter. So that's what is relevant about the pattern of conduct. But with regard to what their knowledge about what I'm doing online, that's what I'm going to show you right now on video. And this is relevant to Title 18 criminal activity. The demon that's group stalking in apartment number 55 is maintaining ongoing chorus, which is amplified audible activity. In the same way that I'm walking, this is a demon, and it doesn't matter what their weight is. It's a method of stalking with noise. It's a method of ongoing a demon that's crossing path, and it coexists with ongoing amplified audible activity. That's a demon in apartment 55 right above group stalking where they live. That's a basis for federal prison. It also is while you're looking at police department stalking, and this demon in apartment 55 is engaged in group stalking in sync with that police department. And that's, again, the terrorist organization, the Ontario Police Department. I want to be clear, this entire apartment complex is due. You're talking about the 7-Eleven across the street, the demons that live on. You're with regard to prosecuting the population that's engaged in group stalking, the zone of relevant positioning, you're talking about federal prison for everybody in relevant position. And I've documented this neighborhood engaging in this system for years, by the way. So I just want to be clear because that's how massive the crime is. I'm going to focus in on what the entity is engaged in monitoring online, and that's also communicating a threat because they're hostile regarding what it is that I'm reviewing, and it includes the criminal activity of YouTube. So regarding what's online, what's not online, what is published online are all of my playlists regarding every day. For example, today is September 15th. You can see that September 15, 2024. On a daily basis, I'm capturing evidence and I'm publishing it. It's organized on the website. And this is an interior of the page, the channel customization. So that's what I'm showing you so that you can see what it is that I have created in order to view on the front page, in order to see what it is that I have created for purposes of seeing at plain view where it is that you can look at the evidence, the daily podcasts that are published, the highlighted terrorism and psychological torture that the Ontario Police Department just engaged in right now. This is highlighted on the front page where you can see, again, the very spectacular and criminal and demonic activity, including stalking by helicopter, that the Los Angeles Police Department is heavily engaged in, and it's captured as a matter of being placed on the front page on the YouTube. The government that's engaged in trying to protect itself from exposure and keep it a secret, even while it's on the internet, is fully interested and is engaged in ongoing criminal activity of the same nature while it is monitoring the evidence that it is seeking to conceal online. And this is going toward the prosecution of YouTube. Google is going to be prosecuted. This is relevant to what is removing my evidence that is available and should be available. So for example, I'm going to show you this as you go to create what is a playlist, for example. And this is what is not appearing on my front page, and this is intentional. And as I review it and seek to add it, it will not generate on my page. So the latest playlist, which would include July 31st, July 30th, right? The entity, and this is creating a playlist that would be generated on the front page. It is created as an option because it is available as an option. If it's not an option, then it wouldn't be available. I have put it here in order to add this, meaning these multiple playlists for July 31st, the 30th, the 29th, and the 28th. This is what I want to show on my page. And as I include this, I publish it. You have the option to see it, and you will see it not appear on my front page. And as I'm editing this and I'm going through all the obstacles that is showing not my evidence not appearing on the front page, which is intentional. The entity that's stalking me a helicopter right now is engaged in monitoring and engages in more of this helicopter activity as I'm online finding maneuvering around what the entity wants to keep off of the front page in order to keep it, again, a secret. So first of all, what I just published to be on the front page is not appearing. So the playlist, you can see starting from February 13, 2024 up until the present, not present, up until July 31st rather, is where the videos are published up to that date. And YouTube is fully capable of showing every playlist that you're creating. There's no limit with regard to how many playlists you can create and how many will be revealed on YouTube. But again, with regard to obstruction of justice and the entity that's flying over me repeatedly in helicopter while I'm looking at the criminal conduct. This is criminal because they want to protect criminals and corrupt government actors and demons, their condition and their criminal activities, such as Mike LORENZ, again, who is engaged in a criminal obstruction of justice while the demons of the Ontario Police Department are terrorizing me in real time while I'm online, and they're seeking to cover up the evidence by keeping it off of the front page. If it's not on the front page, then you're looking at the YouTube channel and you're not looking at any availability to see it on the internet. You go to the playlist and it will not show beyond July 21st, 2024. I have published up until July 31st, 2024. You can see that this is showing the date added with regard to the latest date. This is the latest date that will generate. However, the latest playlist in totality, I'm showing this because this is going for the prosecution of YouTube represents the people of the state. And so online, this is a method of obstruction of justice, and the criminal conduct that the Ontario Police Department is engaging in this, at the same time in the specific environment, is directly relevant to what they know that I am capturing and I'm looking at and seeking to modify. While they're engaging and terrorizing me, flying over the apartment, and while they're flying over, that's not going to create any vibration of the apartment building, and that's what's ongoing as well. So I want to document that they're engaged in the P.O.C. and they're also engaged in what is another method of obstruction of justice, and YouTube will be subject to a criminal prosecution for it. Okay, so civil and criminal, because you're talking about damages for what is threatening my life. Understand what the ordinary target individual is going to be protected from. So I'm experiencing it, I'm exposing it, I'm going to prosecute for it, and it's also informing what the ordinary target individual will be protected from, because this is what the government intends to do. All right, and YouTube is not ignorant of it. I am prosecuting the people and the state as well. YouTube is nothing other than the government. I want to make that clear. YouTube is engaging in what is malicious methods of concealing information, just making it so the playlists that are very much in existence, the evidence that I have made to be visibly seen on the front page, is not appearing. And that's to protect corrupt government, those that are engaging in conduct conspiring to murder and kidnap me, such as Joe Tyler, conspiring to murder and kidnap me, whose demons of CAL FIRE corrupt government actors are group stalking, engaged in criminal surveillance, engaged in federal stalking, and the entity is acting to protect them. That's also providing more credibility, which I don't need. This is showing the loser that the state is and how fearful the government is regarding my evidence, okay? How probative it is and how accurate it is. I don't even need that corroborating evidence by their criminal conduct. I don't even need it. But I'm giving relevant context regarding the entity's efforts to obstruct justice and keep their secrets off of my YouTube channel. They're doing the same thing with my podcast. So I want to be clear. This is the playlist that's not showing on the front page. It will only show up to a created playlist. There's more than up to July 21st created. It's up to August 2nd, 2024. But for a person that goes to my playlist, you will only see up to July 21st, 2024. That's deliberate. You can see if you go to videos, however, you see July 31st, 2024 is published because I made playlists and I have published up to July 31st, 2024. But with regard to what I want to be shown on the front page, the entity is engaged in criminal conduct and is engaged in hovering, stalking, monitoring what I'm doing online as I'm reviewing this, that the entity is seeking to conceal in real time. Immediately, the entity is stalking by commercial airline planes, amplified audible activity, group stalking. That's the elements of monitoring in sync with what you're doing online. Also by helicopter. And so I'm stepping out so that you can see what Ontario Police Department is repeatedly doing. You can clearly see them flying over my apartment. They're not targeting anybody else also under the fake sun and under the fake moon, which is also over the apartment complex. This is the same complex where the fake sun was over the property as well. The sun and the moon over me, where the entities flying over me by helicopter, is the P.O.C. And the entities doing so, the demon and the third party in apartment 55, that's the state maintaining the elements of monitoring, acting through a demon-possessed third party, whose name is information to be produced. The current demon that's leasing that apartment is engaged in criminal conduct by virtue of their address, and they're engaged in the demonic pattern of conduct, which they're not free to do in that apartment. It's a third-party facilitating venue. They don't have any property rights, any privacy rights in the specific environment, regardless of whether you're paying a mortgage, you're paying on a note, you're paying rent. It's a third-party facilitating venue, and that's a criminal activity by the state, where the state is stalking. So is apartment number 55, maintaining elements, criminal activity. This is how a government is acting with the people, and they're online fearful of my evidence, okay? So that demons like Paul Leon, this is the mayor of Ontario, is fully aware of what the entity is seeking to keep off of the internet, fully aware of the demons, a part of the LAPD, whom this demon, Paul Leon, a corrupt government actor, is fully aware of what the corrupt department, the Ontario Police and the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department are engaged in, and it's surveillance. And that's why they're acting in sync to conceal, which YouTube is engaged in. YouTube is inevitably implicated while I'm on the YouTube channel, and I'm unable to use ordinary functions of the page, of the channel. Okay, you have these options in order to publish your information. The entity is repeatedly going on and making my published videos private. After I publish them, going back behind and making them private to keep it off the front page, so that when you go to my front page, you will not see what is already published. And so this is where you see here, July 31st is the latest date published, but it's not appearing on my front page, even though I have it selected to be a part of the playlist that you should be able to go on and look at. So I just want to show this because this is what the Ontario Police Department is hostile to, and they're threatening my life, harassing and terrorizing, group stalking, being demons, group stalking, and engaged in federal stalking while they are monitoring what I'm doing on the internet, which they don't want me to maneuver around in order to have it appear on the internet. They're engaged in criminal conduct, monitoring internet use, the ability to access functions online while they're flying over by helicopter. It's affecting what I have access and the ability to do on the internet. So that's literally what you're looking at. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm giving context regarding what is clearly the pattern of conduct. You already know what LAPD was doing for years. You also know, based on the evidence that's already on the record regarding the Ontario Police Department, another terrorist organization, very heavily documented, engaged in the P.O.C. All right. And it's not just this demon in apartment 55 above. It's not just the demons of the Ontario Police Department. The entire state of California, Cal Fire, San Bernardino County Fire Department, the Ontario Fire Department, American Medical Response, the Ontario Police Department, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Monrovia Police Department, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, the Nevada State Police, the California Highway Patrol, the entities get the Orange County Sheriff's Department, the Costa Mesa Police Department. I'm pointing out all of the aspects of the state who are very much paying attention to what I've published about them, to what I have documented about them, and they are all equally engaged in conspiring to murder and kidnap me, while also trying to conceal the evidence of that criminal system that they're engaged in. That's why there's evidence as precise as videos on a playlist that are not appearing, that should appear. And this is not a small thing, it's a major thing. The ordinary target individual will be capable of blowing the whistle, publishing evidence, videos. It doesn't have to be as detailed and refined, okay, and as sophisticated as mine. You upload a video with regard to the ability to publish publish and blow a whistle. The entity is actively engaged in trying to conceal this. And what it is you're going to pay even more attention to all of the names of the demons, such as Paul Leon, such as Mike Lorenz, all right, such as Shannon Dykes, such as the Ontario Fire Chief, such as the demons of Jeremy Dean, the captain of the Hesperia, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department for the Hesperia branch, all of the aspects of the police chief over the Metropolitan Police in Nevada. Okay, the demon that's from LAPD, by the way, that is currently over the Nevada State Police, engaged in the same exact pattern of conduct in Nevada that I documented when I was there. All of these government agents, they're fully engaged in this pattern of conduct. They are fully interested in trying to conceal what they cannot deny. Now you're talking about just being a loser and just wanting to just cover up mud. They're blatantly just trying to engage in covering it up. And I'm going to prosecute YouTube for it. I want to be clear. There is a series of ongoing events that are serving to obstruct justice, and YouTube is not an innocent bystander at all. It's not. And nor is it reasonable to maintain that. And there's already evidence that YouTube cannot blame on anybody else. They're the ones that engaged in conduct that's already documented, removing evidence of the environment, sunlight and the sun, There's no basis for them to ever have engaged in conduct, removing my evidence, placing age restrictions on it, claiming that they're removing it because it was inappropriate, it was explicit in one way or another. And they've done that, and they did it tons and tons and tons of times. You know, a ton is equivalent to 12. I have tons and tons of emails of them removing, at the time they were providing email communications regarding erroneous reasons. First of all, it's erroneous because this is blowing the whistle. Second of all, it's erroneous because it wasn't even in conformity to their own policies. Third of all, they represent the state. It's a venue online, and the government, acting vicariously, will not hinder an American citizen from blowing the whistle and publishing evidence online, even if it's on your website, because they represent the people of the state. And these companies make way too much money. They're fully interested in the P.O.C. They're biased, in other words. Their headquarters are in California, and they're engaged in that pattern of conduct, including on the internet. And what the Ontario Police Department is doing over my apartment in the specific environment, while I am reviewing a criminal act of obstruction of justice, removing my evidence offline to conceal it, to protect sex offenders, such as Walden of the Ontario Council over the Ontario International Airport, while commercial airline planes that he is aware of are group stalking over this apartment complex, a senior citizen apartment complex, in rhythm, in sync with what I'm doing online for purposes of monitoring, group stalking, criminal surveillance, and intimidation, retaliation, harassment, and terrorism as an entity, in sync with the state that you just saw flying over my apartment building, which is never going to create any kind of earthquake. That's the P.O.C. Okay, the entities engaging in this while they're engaged in surveillance online, trying to avoid. This is the government admitting that it's a liar, admitting that it's a criminal, admitting that it is literally a despicable, lying stalker, engaging in trying to just hide it. So you can't deny it. You don't look innocent at all whatsoever. And so this is an admitted defeat by the government that wants to hide my evidence. That's what this is relevant to. You're talking about what's a loser, and I said that a long time ago. The government is a loser that's stalking me. Even at this hour, flying over the apartment building that they know that I'm inside of, and they know exactly what I'm doing on the internet. And by the way, they've been engaged in this consistently documented for years. Okay, so I just want to be clear. An ordinary function of the internet, and this is no ordinary channel. This is evidence regarding blowing the whistle on the government, where the government is threatening your life on a moment-by-moment basis. Engaged in documented acts of kidnapping. That's the agency that's stalking in a helicopter. Okay. You have what is Mike Lorenz. You're talking about going to federal prison for what I'm documenting right now. And you are engaged in criminal conduct while you are a terrorist leader, just like Osama bin Laden. You are not a chief of police. Ordinary contract law principles such as, well, I have to maintain specific knowledge about criminal conduct that I'm going to be purportedly held liable for when I'm not even knowledgeable. All of that is an illusion. Mike Lorenz is a criminal fully engaged in group stalking. The entire department of the Ontario Police is engaged in group stalking, and you will be held accountable as a leader of a terrorist organization that's engaged in domestic terrorism, targeting an American citizen and then trying to cover it up. You will be held accountable for it. And it's the same with Google. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm pointing all of this out. The entity is engaged in what is conduct and laws that are serving for what is an ongoing facilitation of a corrupt system. All of these illusionary bases of what there has to be a certain amount of knowledge before you can hold someone civilly or criminally accountable. They're all engaged in the pattern of conduct together. The entire government is engaged in this criminal conduct. And you're talking about holding the one at the top of that food chain responsible for criminal conduct where American citizens are murdered and kidnapped as a result of it, absent any liability, accountability for it. There's no illusion of the chief of police doesn't know about what the department is doing with the helicopters, what the department is doing with regard to making up charges and arresting people and manufacturing charges in a court that's engaged in that same criminal system, with the sheriff's department that's engaged in that same criminal system. The P.O.C. is showing how every aspect of this government is engaged in the pattern of conduct. You're going to be held responsible civilly and criminally. And Mike Lorenz is faced with what is a criminal prosecution. The mayor knows what the county sheriff's engaged in and what the department under the county sheriff's leadership is engaged in. The mayor knows what the demon, the corrupt actor, and the corruption that the police department is engaged in. They're closely working together. The mayor knows what the population, the state of California, is engaged in. It is impossible to have this pattern of conduct in common amongst people in two different regions, such as in a corner in Los Angeles and at the Ovid Family Community Library in San Bernardino County. That's a pattern of conduct, and the population are engaging in an identical pattern of conduct, which includes the supernatural, and the mayors of both cities, they know exactly what's going on, and they're a part of it. and they're acting with these corrupt government actors. And so, like I stated earlier on the podcast and in the video, the entities engaged, that is Ontario Police Department, which Mike Lorenz is accountable for the criminal activity that this department is currently engaged in, and every demon before Mike Lorenz in that same position has been engaged in the same exact criminal system. That's why I have years of criminal surveillance and terrorism and kidnapping upon federal group stalking monitoring by the same exact department, the Ontario Police Department. Okay, this is what the entity is doing while they are seeking to obstruct justice because they are scared to death of the prosecution that they're not avoiding. This is an admitted defeat by the state of California. And this is going to be noted, and it's going to be at the center of the prosecution of the state of California. This is P.O.C. It's currently 10:20 p.m.